Hey, what is going on, Fan Clan? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Danny Phantom. I just want to start out by saying thank you so much to everybody for all of your support. We just hit 30,000 subscribers on the channel. I would never have done this without you guys. I never thought in a million years I would get to this point. So thank you so much for all your support. It's amazing. I cannot believe here we are on December 30th, 2020 when I'm recording this. We are just over 24 hours away from turning the calendar to another year, 2021. I hope that 2021 has a lot of much better and more positive things in store for us. 2020 has just been a crazy year. I'm a huge fan of making goals, setting goals, destroying those goals. A lot of people call them resolutions at this time of year, but really goal setting's kind of my big thing. We're not going to get into that too much today, but I do want to go over what 2020 was as far as Pokemon cards go, some of the purchases that I made, and kind of go down my top 10 just to kind of keep things light and fun, go over my top 10 purchases that I made throughout the year 2020 as far as single cards go, not going over sealed product, and unfortunately not going over some cards that are currently still at PSA. PSA is just, some of the turnaround times right now are just, it's crazy how long the waits are. I sent some cards in for a 20-day grade back in the beginning of August that I still have not received back yet. So we're coming on almost 5 months right now, which is pretty crazy. I know they're super backed up. So hopefully soon I will be able to do a video going through some of those things. But it was like first edition Shining Charizard, a few first edition Shinings actually that I sent off, and then some Charizard VMAXs along with some Rainbow Charizards, I think. Some really good stuff. So hopefully we will get those back within the next couple weeks and we'll be able to shoot a video going over that. I want to thank everybody who was able to join us yesterday for the Shiny Star V case break. That was my first time doing something that was more modern as far as the box breaks go. I had a lot of fun. Your guys' input, just kind of getting a chance to talk to you guys all, was super cool. We're going to start a program called Bulk for Breaks, where you can sell your bulk, you can turn your bulk into store credit, you can send it off. For those of you who don't know, we do accept bulk. All the details are on our website. You can go to pkmncoliseum.com or just click the link in the description below for more details on that. But we're going to start a store credit program as far as breaks go, that you can turn your bulk into breaks. Otherwise, we will continue doing breaks in the future. We have a Team Rocket break that is coming up this upcoming Sunday at 8:30 p.m. Central Time, so I hope to see you there for that. We've already sold one entire booster box and then 23 packs of the second box, so there's 13 packs left. So if you want to get on that, I will leave a link in the description below for that as well. With that all being said, let's get into my top 10 purchases of the year 2020. So a lot of this stuff is going to kind of be, whoa, there's one of them. A lot of this stuff is going to be kind of deck related, because I told you guys that I was working on a project of building old retro decks, and I know one person was like, hey, I thought you didn't have a collection. Well, this isn't really part of my collection. This is a project. This is a goal. One day this will be sold. One day this is more of an investment. But number 10 on my list is these guys right here. So this is Luxray LVX. So this came out, I think, in 2009. This was a very, very, very popular card in the format in 2009, 2010 because of its bright look ability. So if you look here, it says, once during your turn before your attack, when you put Luxray LVX from your hand onto your active Luxray, you may switch the defending Pokemon with one of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So basically a Lysander effect right there. Very, very cool. Kind of like what you saw with Lycanroc recently in the format last year. And then for one Lightning and one Colorless, it does Flash, Impact, 60 damage, does 30 damage to one of your Pokemon, and don't apply weakness and resistance to this damage. This card was actually pretty pricey because it's in so many decks from that format, and it's not a very popular, or it's not a very in-print card, I should say. So getting these 3 copies was pretty difficult, and you need 3 for one of the main decks. I'm going to need to get a couple more copies. But this was about, I mean, these were like $100 a piece when I bought them, so definitely not cheap by any means. But those I'm very, very excited about to be adding to my old school decks. Number 9 that I'm going to talk to you about is actually a couple different Prime cards. I never got into Prime cards. I don't know if you guys want to comment down below if you got into Prime cards. Prime cards were very, very outside of my when I was into Pokemon type time, because I was into Pokemon all the way up through basically Skyridge and then took a break for a while. So these came out in, I think, the Triumphant set. I was not a part of Pokemon at all. I missed pretty much all of the Primes. I never really collected Primes. And now that I'm starting to research the game a lot more and kind of get into the history of the game, these are very, very cool. And some Primes are still relatively cheap, but these right here are not cheap by any means. You're looking at anywhere between 20 and 40 a piece for some of these more playable primes. So you've got Mew right here. So this says Lost Link is its ability. You probably can't read it, but Mew can use the attacks of all of the Pokemon in the Lost Zone. So Pokemon had this. If you haven't watched any of these old format games, I highly recommend going and looking at some of them. They're a lot of fun. The whole Lost Zone concept is something that just really, really excites me, and I've had a lot of fun researching more of it. So that's why Mew was a very big card. So was Gengar back in the day. I'm not going to go over all the details of these because I don't want to bore you guys, but just the artworks on some of these primes. So if you look at those, the Gengar and the Mew are just fantastic. So that's why I pulled those two out in specific. I love how they look. Those are my number 9 as far as purchases go. Number 8 is a card called Tropical Beach. So I pulled 3 of them out of some of my retro decks. I've actually got about 8 of them right now, but I'm going to need, I think, 4 or 5 more copies. The problem with these bad boys is that they run anywhere between $400 and $450 per copy. Yes, I'm talking about one Pokemon card that is just a trainer card that sells for $400 to $500. So this is a card that was given to, I think it was only in 2 worlds, so 2011 and 2012. This was the promo card that was given out at the World Championships for the trading card game. And Tropical Beach basically just says, once during each player's turn, that player may draw cards until he or she has 7 cards in his or her hand. If he or she does that, the player's turn ends. So it doesn't seem like it's a very good card, but it ends up being a staple in a lot of slow-moving decks that take a while to build up. So I played, this actually has some sentimental value to it as well, because I played the last... one of the first, I guess the second regional that I ever played was Madison, Wisconsin. I think it was like 2016 or 2000. I think it was 2016. Anyways, I played Primal Groudon, and I actually played 3 copies of this in my deck, and it was the first time where I went into the final round of the day with a win and in. Basically, that meant that if I won that last round, that meant that I would get to play in day 2. I ended up basically dropping, well, giving the win to my opponent because I couldn't play in day 2, unfortunately. But Primal Groudon, if you've ever played it, it's a ton of fun, and it's also the worst deck to play for a long time because it's so grueling and it takes a long time to set up. But Tropical Beach is just an awesome, awesome card. Just talks a lot about the game to me, and for sentimental purposes as well as valuable purposes. That's why it's number 8. I have never been able to purchase multiple copies of it before, and then this year I was able to get my hands on, I think, 8 copies so far. So that's why I'm so excited about that one. Moving on to number 7, and I guess this is more of just a plethora of cards here. This is old school EXs. I have started to fall in love more with old school EXs. Some of these original EXs from like the Legend Maker set are just fantastic to look at. This Blastoise EX is from Fire Red, Leaf Green. I just love the artwork on it. Some of these old school EX cards. Arcanine EX, the reason that's in here is, one, it's because it does get played in retro decks, but also because Arcanine is one of my top 2 favorite Pokemon from the OG set. I love Arcanine and I love Primeape, so Arcanine, I definitely had to have a copy of the old school EX cards because that's the only ultra rare that they've made of Arcanine, unless you count like Arcanine Break, which I don't. So some of the artwork on these old school EXs are just fantastic, and they have gotten so pricey and so out of control. I actually saw somebody who had gotten a PSA 10 copy of every single old school EX card, and they have it on display in their house. It looks really, really cool. So that is number 7, 10, 9, 8, 7. Then we're going to move on to number 6, and this is just my Evolution EXs. So it kind of falls in line with the old school EXs, but at the same time, these are much more for playing purposes when it comes to the retro decks. There were so many of these copies that were played in the 2004, 2005 format, and it's just a lot of fun to try and get these. Again, the problem is that these run for typically around $100 a piece, so getting multiple copies of these and multiple copies of them that are not in bad condition is actually kind of difficult to do because these are becoming more and more difficult to come by. So very, very cool there. That's number 6. Moving on to number 5 is just some gold stars that I picked up this year. This isn't quite all of them. I also have a few more that I picked up that are either getting graded, and then there's a few more that I have just in a different box. But the reason these are important is these 2 are from, these 3 are more for playable purposes, but this Rayquaza right here has a lot of sentimental value to it just because of all I went through to try and get a hold of one. It is a very, very, very expensive card. This one is not in perfect condition. It's actually more in lightly played condition. It's got a little whitening at the bottom here. if you can make that out. And then there's a little bit more on the top. But for the most part, it's in pretty fair condition. Usually when I'm trying to build my retro decks, it's more of like moderately played cards that I try and capture because you don't want to pay full value if you're just going to put it in a sleeve and play it anyways. But this Rayquaza is actually a little bit better condition than what I typically would get, but I found a really good deal on it that I just couldn't pass up, and that's why it falls into number 6. So moving on to, or number 5, moving on to the top 4, now we start getting a little bit more pricey. So this one right here has, I mean, a lot of value to it. I remember pulling a Lugia, first edition Lugia, when I was a little kid from the Neo Genesis set. Neo Genesis is one of my favorite sets. All of the Neo sets all together are super, super nostalgic for me, and there's a lot of memories that go back with opening those sets. That's why I'm so excited to do those soon on our vintage box breaks. But this Lugia first edition is only graded an 8, but I found a good deal on one, and I couldn't pass it up, and that's why I ended up purchasing it. But I love this card. I love the artwork. It looks super cool, and I was able to get my hands on one of those this year for the first time, I think, ever. Number 3 is actually a very, very, very cool card that I have never owned. I ended up getting a copy of a Crystal Charizard, and this is graded as a PSA 9, so it's not completely perfect. I don't know exactly what it is that they saw, but there's a little bit of a white piece, a little bit of whitening down here in the bottom left-hand corner that you probably can't make out there. So I'm assuming that's where it got knocked down a point, but still very, very good quality. The PSA 9 of the Crystal Charizards right now are selling for over $8,000. So this card by itself is super, super valuable and very, very in demand right now. We ended up buying this card for a really good price a few months ago, and I've held on to it for a while just because I haven't been wanting to part ways with it yet, just because it looks so cool. I love the Crystal cards. Skyridge is obviously a very, very cool set, a very, very fun set to open, a very fun set to collect, and a very difficult and expensive set to collect. That is why that is number 3. Number 2 was actually going to be number 1 until a few days ago when I got a new card in that I just couldn't pass up. So number 2 is actually a Legendary Collection Charizard. Legendary Collection is my all-time favorite set to open, favorite set to collect, right ahead of Neo Destiny. I think the artwork on it is fantastic. The reverse hollows are so cool looking. I love the way that it lays out. I just love everything about these cards. And Charizard was one of the final few cards that I needed to collect my master set, or to finish my master set for the Legendary Collection for investment purposes. I can't wait till I get all of those finally in, but I ended up getting a few more over the last couple months, including this Charizard. I also got a Gyarados recently, so I'm very excited to keep trying to add a few pieces every now and then to that master set because it's so difficult. That set is so expensive, but I love how this card looks. It's amazing. And my number 1 card that I purchased this year is purely for sentimental purposes. This is my favorite card art of all time. So this is a Light Arcanine from the Neo Destiny set. I love the way it looks. I love the way that the colors go together. I just love the artwork. And for sentimental purposes, when I was younger, I remember collecting as many of these as I could get my hands on. And then eventually when I ended up selling out of the game altogether and getting rid of all of my copies, that was one of the cards that it was most difficult to let go of. I was very, very happy that I found this one for a really good deal recently, and I ended up scooping it up. And the reason it falls as my top card that I purchased, it's just because it brings back so many memories for me. You know, it's not all about money, it's not all about value, but it's also about the memories that go along with each of the cards, and this one has a ton of sentimental value behind it. I just love this artwork. I love all the Dark and Light cards from Neo Destiny, but this one by far is my favorite. So those would be my top 10 purchases of 2020 as far as singles go. I bought a lot of great stuff in 2020. I sold a lot of great stuff in 2020. It was a lot of fun throughout the year. I want to know what you guys all got, you know, in this past year as you look back and reflect on how you added to your collection, how you added to your binders, what you brought in that you were so excited about, what you're still super excited about. So please leave a comment down below and tell me the cards that you were most excited to get in 2020, whether it be something that you pulled or something that you purchased. I want to hear about it. So thank you so much, guys. I hope you liked this was more of kind of a fun video than anything else, just to kind of go over some of the singles that I was able to get my hands on this year. Let me know in the comment section down below what you got. Thank you so much for everything. I hope everybody has a fantastic new year. Tomorrow night we're going to release a video going over our 25 winners for our recent 25K giveaway. We just hit 30,000 subscribers. I got a bunch of new inventory in. Not quite everything that I've ordered. We got a lot of fun stuff coming yet, so I'm going to continue working on the website, and hopefully within the next few days we'll have that back up and running. Thank you so much, guys, for everything. I appreciate you sticking with me throughout 2020, and I can't wait to see what we do in 2021. Until next time, peace!